The most loving and trusting relationship for a child is with their parents. They can learn, grow, and smile because they know that his or her parents will always support and love them no matter what. Many scientists think that a child's mental and physical development is very dependent on the atmosphere of their home and their bond with their parents. So what happens when these same parents become the monsters that they were supposed to protect the child from? What happens to a child who is demeaned and abused every day by the same people that brought them into this world? What happens to a child who is not loved by anyone? Today on Crime Diaries, we head to the UK to explore the heart-wrenching case of Sebastian Kalinowski. On July 16, 2006, in Poland, Sebastian Kalinowski was born. When Sebastian was 4 years old, his mother, Agnieszka Kalinowski, and his father got divorced, and Sebastian's mother moved to the UK with her then new partner to live and work. When she first arrived in the UK, she subletted a room from Andrzej Latoszewski, whom she'd known since she was a young child. Agnieszka and Andrej started dating shortly after they arrived. Agnieszka was 35 years old, and Andrej, both of Polish descent, was 36. Andrej utilized steroids heavily and was a bodybuilder and martial artist. In October 2020, Sebastian was moved to the UK to live with his mother and stepfather. His mother had previously shared on social media how thrilled she was that Sebastian would soon be moving in with her. Sebastian enrolled at Leeds North Huddersfield School shortly after coming to the UK. He went by the name Seba and was much smaller than his friends. Over time, the instructors there claimed Sebastian appeared dejected, but he always smiled and showed a positive attitude toward learning. His stepfather and mother began physically and verbally assaulting him soon after they arrived in the UK. To keep an eye on and manage Sebastian's every action, Andrej installed cameras in the living room and Sebastian's bedroom. Sebastian's parents tortured him for weeks, and when Sebastian Kalinowski was discovered dead, the suffering was over. It started when emergency services were summoned to the home on August 13, 2021, with reports of a 15-year-old boy drowning in the bathtub. On the 999 corpse, Andrej could be heard pleading to Sebastian to wake up. Sebastian was already beyond saving when paramedics came. They observed a bruise on his chest while performing CPR on him. He suffered numerous wounds from his abusers and was declared dead at the Huddersfield Raw Infirmary. A total of 23 of his ribs were shattered. When investigators observed that there was no water in the bath where they said Sebastian had drowned, police officers began to distrust their accounts of what had occurred. As they searched the house, they also discovered blood spatter on the wall near Sebastian's bed. Prior to calling emergency services, they discovered the CCTV system deactivated and stashed in a drawer. The video footage set up in the home played a crucial part in allowing the investigators in on what went on in that house. When police reviewed the footage, they watched horrified as Sebastian suffered physical abuse by the pair who were supposed to care for him. The two cameras caught the verbal and physical abuse they both administered, which began just 3 months after Sebastian arrived in the UK. His mother viewed every video clip from both cameras using a mobile app. Among the physical abuse were punches, kicks, dragging around the house, stamping and kneeing. In between assaults, Sebastian was made to perform drills by Andrej. These exercises included press-ups, sit-ups, and squats. Daily beatings included being struck with a bed slat, a staircase spindle, and whipped with an extension cord. Andrej also administered humiliating punishments, including forcing him to eat by force and stuffing a shoe in his mouth. Every detail of the abuse was captured on CCTV footage. His mother, Agnieszka, would be in the next room knowing the beatings were happening, either ignoring it or sometimes even participating in it. Sebastian served as Andrej's daily punching bag, being forced to perform humiliating tasks and being made to spend hours staring at his bedroom cabinet as punishment. Summer break from school began in July of 2021, and Sebastian began to get more frequent, severe, and humiliating beatings. A typical day for Sebastian, as shown on the cameras, would involve Andrej repeatedly kneeing and punching him in the stomach area. His mother would also join in the beating by holding Sebastian down, and there was video of Agnieszka strangling Sebastian and pinning him to the bed. They observed how they would smile at each other while making fun of him and laughing. They heard his cries and saw footage of him doing chores and exercises while his mother and stepfather binged on takeaways. The couple claimed to police that Sebastian wouldn't listen, and this was their way of punishing him. The day before, August 12, 2021, the circumstances that eventually led to Sebastian's death began. Video evidence shows Andrej grinning as he stabbed Sebastian in the crotch and thigh area and forced food and liquid down his mouth. When Agnieszka took control, it was seen that she also stabbed Sebastian with the needle. Video evidence captures Sebastian receiving additional beatings on August 13, 2021. And at 8:26 a.m., Andrej is seen dragging Sebastian from his bedroom. At 8:41 in the morning, Sebastian's mother can be seen setting a duvet on the floor, and Sebastian was placed on the duvet. While his mother is drawing the shades in the living area, Andrej was observed palpitating Sebastian's chest and performing chest compressions. Before the video was turned off at 9:26 a.m., footage taken a little while later from Sebastian's bedroom camera shows Andrej pouring water into Sebastian's mouth. Andrej called his employer and informed his manager that he was going to miss work due to major problems before they even thought about summoning emergency services. Just before 11 a.m., Sebastian was seen in the video footage naked, but when the ambulance arrived, he was fully clothed. Agnieszka and Andrej were later arrested and charged for Sebastian's death. After their arrest, Andrej lied repeatedly, first claiming that Sebastian had taken a bath that morning and was discovered unconscious, then claiming that Sebastian had told him he'd been hit by a friend's father a few weeks prior in an attempt to explain the bruises on Sebastian's body, and finally claiming that Sebastian had fallen out of a tree a week prior. In her first interview, his mother related the incident of Sebastian drowning. In her second, she declined to respond. Afterwards, she acknowledged that Andrej had struck Sebastian once a few weeks earlier. The trial began in Leeds Crown Court on June 13, 2022. Andrej and Agnieszka both argued that the punishments were appropriate in their closing arguments. However, on day 2 of the trial, they both admitted to abusing a child under the age of 16 and pled guilty to manslaughter. According to the senior prosecutor, Sebastian should have been able to trust these two people, but instead of loving and guarding him, they repeatedly beat and tortured him. Doctors testified a post-mortem on Sebastian revealed 81 injuries to his body, injuries that are typically observed on accident victims, and that his body gave out most likely as a result of the 23 rib fractures that went untreated and caused infection, which subsequently accumulated in sepsis and organ failure. The age of each rib fracture varied from 2 to 12 weeks. On inspection, Sebastian had numerous bruising and pus-filled pockets all over his body, impact-related areas at the back of his body, as well as defensive wounds, doctors testified to the jury. They claimed that if Sebastian had received medical care, he could have been able to control the infection. In court, Andrej claimed that he would beat up Sebastian for his constant months of lying and bad behavior. He said it became a vicious cycle of lies and beatings. There was no evidence that Sebastian played truant. Agnieszka said that she was afraid of Andrej and only carried out the beatings because he was abusing her. She said she thought the beatings were a normal way a mother should hit her son. Nevertheless, text messages exchanged between the two were displayed in court and showed they were planning punishments for Sebastian that the school would not find out about by using phrases like, quote, something without markings and cold water waiting for him. They explicitly outlined the torment they would subject him to. While Agnieszka claimed that Andrej installed the CCTV to monitor her conversations, Andrej claimed that the CCTV was installed as a result of a break-in at his former residence. Andrej responded that the camera in Sebastian's room was hanging down and he was concerned that it would injure someone when questioned by court about why he removed it before dialing emergency services. He removed the living room camera because it captured him moving cannabis from his basement, which he didn't want the police to find out about. In one segment of the video, Andrej can be seen hitting Sebastian more than 100 times over the course of 30 minutes while his mother watches TV and eats toast. Even Andrej stopping to wipe the sweat from his face was captured on camera. The shocking video of the beatings in the home had to be watched by the jury. They witnessed Sebastian screaming and wailing as he was being hit, called names, and told they didn't want him to live with them. Jurors observed Andrej striking Sebastian while holding him down, and Agnieszka running over to grab Sebastian by the arms and legs. They had heard that if Sebastian left food on his bedroom floor or simply used the restroom after dark, he'd be punished. It was horrifying to know that on the morning of the 13th of August, after finding Sebastian unconscious, they waited over 2 hours before calling emergency services. According to a family acquaintance who testified in court, Sebastian started to become a hindrance to the couple. Additionally, they stated that Sebastian would address Andrej as Mr. or Sir, and that Andrej would tell Sebastian he should treat his mother with more respect, and that Agnieszka was being too indulgent. A close acquaintance of Agnieszka testified that Andrej dominated the relationship and always answered for her and directed her speech. When Andrej became aggressive during a situation at school, a teacher testified she had to put her hand out to stop him from getting more violent, calling Sebastian a liar and shoving her in the face. In the trial, the jury took just 3 hours and 39 minutes before returning unanimous verdicts against both defendants. Andrej and Agnieszka were both found guilty of murder and will be sentenced in October 2022. Following the verdict, the judge told jurors that they would never have to serve jury again due to the harrowing nature of the evidence during the trial. Sebastian Kalinowski was described by his teachers and his loved ones as a kind and loving boy with a funny personality and will always be remembered for his charming smile. He was a great boy with a great, bright future, which he deserved, but instead, his life was cut short by 2 monsters who were jealous of the kind of person he was about to become. It's impossible to contemplate the agony and fear this young boy experienced, inflicted in his own home by his supposed caregivers. It's still baffling for many how someone could treat any child, let alone their own, with such abhorrent cruelty and contempt. We can only hope Sebastian is at peace now. That wraps up this episode. What are your thoughts of the murder of Sebastian Kalinowski? Tell us in the comments section. Also, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. This has been Crime Diaries, and until next time, don't be another statistic.